Jose Menendez had it all planned out. Born in Cuba, he escaped the US at 16 during the Cuban Revolution, determined to make a name for himself. Fast forward, Jose works hard, earned an accounting degree from Queens College after graduating from Southern Illinois University, where he met his college sweetheart, Mary Louise. Kitty was also her name, with the surname Anderson. They get married and she gives him the picture perfect family. Two sons called Lyle and Eric. But here's the thing, Jose isn't just a hard worker, he's a perfectionist. But it makes total sense, right? A guy who came to America at 16, determined to succeed, doesn't get there without having his life on lock. He had high standards for everything. And now these high standards extend to his family. What happens when a perfectionist father has kids who don't quite live up to that standard? This is a story of the Menendez family. Hey guys, welcome to True Crime Comment Quest, where we delve into the mysteries of true crime cases that you've requested not just on my channel but other YouTubers' comments as well. True crime YouTubers' comments as well. This story today was gotten from Elite Herada under someone's comment section. I cannot remember who, but I'm gonna put it on here. So let's dive straight in the case. Jose Enrique Menendez was born on the 6th of May in 1944 in Havana, Cuba. At 16, he moved to the US, escaping the chaos of the Cuban Revolution. He attends Southern Illinois University, where he meets Mary Louise Kitty Anderson. They get married in 1963 and move to New York City, where Jose earns an accounting degree from Queens College. It's clear how goal-driven Jose is, because if you're thinking of a typical Cuban immigrant story, he has defied expectations with his success. Kitty gives birth to their first son, Lyle, on January 10th, 1968, and shortly after, they move to New Jersey, where their second son, Eric, is born on the 27th of November in 1970. The family settles in Hopewell Township, and both boys attend the prestigious Princeton Day School. Meanwhile, Jose climbs the corporate ladder with ease. He secures a job as an executive at Hertz Corporation, then RCA Records, and eventually becomes the CEO of Live Entertainment. This new position takes the family to Calabasas, California, where Eric attends Calabasas High School. Now, here's where the crack in the picture perfect family starts to show. In 1988, Lyle and Eric get caught up in a string of burglaries in their neighborhood, prompting Jose to relocate the family to Beverly Hills. I mean, what else would you expect? Jose couldn't let his name or his family's name or image be tainted by his kids' behavior. Then comes Lyle. He gets into Princeton but ends up on probation due to his poor grades. And eventually, he's suspended for plagiarism. Meanwhile, Eric, who is attending Beverly Hills High School, isn't exactly excelling academically either. He has average grades, far from the excellence his father would expect from him. But Eric does have one thing going for him. He's a talented tennis player, ranked 44th in the US as a junior. At least that's something Jose might actually be proud of. Despite Jose's efforts to keep up appearances, tension in the Menendez household continued to escalate. And Lyle and Eric, they start planning something drastic. On the 18th of August 1989, the brothers quietly visit several gun stores in Southern California, seeking to purchase handguns. At the time, no one questions it. The real reason behind those purchases won't come to light until much later, when the dark secrets of the Menendez household are finally exposed. Lyle having issues with his California driver's license, plus there's a 2 week waiting period for handguns. So he and Eric decide to go for shotguns instead. Eric actually uses a stolen driver's license from Lyle's friend Donovan Goodrill, and they managed to get Mossberg 12 gauge shotguns and boxes of ammunition in San Diego. Fast forward to August 20th, 1989. It's a quiet Sunday night, the kind where you're just lounging, maybe watching TV. That's exactly what Jose and Kitty are doing. relaxing in the den of their Beverly Hills mansion when Lyle and Eric come in, shotguns loaded. Jose gets shot not once, but 6 times, with a fatal shot to the back of his head. You think Kitty might have been spared a little, but no, she's shot 10 times, even worse than what they did to their father. And as she's crawling on the ground trying to get away, Lyle runs out to the car, grabs more ammo from Eric, and comes back to deliver the final shot to her face, her cheek to be precise. And it was brutal. Right after killing their parents, Lyle and Eric hang around the house for a few minutes, waiting for the cops to show up. Because, hello, tons of gunshots just went off, but nothing. No sirens, no commotion. So they leave to get rid of the bloody clothes and the shotguns along Molohan Drive. Then it gets even crazier. They head straight to a movie theater to buy tickets for the Batman movie, just to create an alibi. But they ditch the plan once they realize the ticket stub would have a timestamp. Instead, they end up at the Taste of LA Festival at Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. Because after committing murder, why not just hit up a food fest to probably dissuade everyone from thinking that they were even in the house? When they return home and saw no police present, Lyle calls 911, wailing that his parents had been killed and they needed help. He sounds so helpless and extremely despondent. By the time the police came, Eric ran out of the house and started bashing his head on the tree, wailing, crying. The police was even trying to stop him because they felt so bad and thought that he was going to try to kill himself. This definitely deserves an Oscar. I'm not even going to lie. Like, it deserves an Oscar. The brothers deserve an Oscar for that performance. They told the police where they had been when the murder probably happened, or at least their alibi. So they weren't searched for gunshot residues because if they had, it would have been known that they recently discharged a firearm. So that was also a wrong part on the police. The police suspected the crime to be mob related due to its heinousness and Jose business connection. The police and forensic staff who came to check out the crime scene described it as the most brutal one they had encountered due to the blood and brain matter splattered throughout the room. So they had just assumed that it was one of Jose's business partners or someone that Jose had been in business with and wanted the profits from whatever business that they had encountered. Now, the neighbors are scared and their security is shattered. I mean, if someone could come in and do that to a family in the neighborhood, what's stopping them from being next? In the months following the killings, Lyle and Eric go on a spending spree. Lavish luxury items, new businesses, exotic travels, flashy cars, you name it. Lyle, who returned to Princeton, didn't stop there. He bought an entire restaurant, 3 Rolex watches, and even a Porsche. Meanwhile, Eric, pursuing his tennis passion, hired a full-time coach and traveled overseas, competing in various tournaments. The brothers even left their family mansions behind and got adjoining condos in Marina del Rey. Their lifestyle was extravagant. They dined at top restaurants and took vacations to the Caribbean and London. For two guys who had just lost their parents in the most brutal way, they were sure living the life. They had spent up to $700,000. Naturally, this drew suspicion. Then, Eric's high school friend, Craig Signarelli, reports to the police that Eric had confessed the murders to him. Not only that, Eric had also written a 66-page screenplay about a son who murders his wealthy parents for their inheritance. A little too close to reality, right? The police, hoping for a confession, have Craig wear a wire during lunch with Eric, but Eric never says anything incriminating during that lunch. To the police, maybe the play was just a case of creative writing after all. But the story doesn't stop there. The dark truth comes to light when Eric confesses to his psychotherapist, Jerome Oziel, who then shares the secret with his mistress, Judalon Smith. Oziel, knowing the power of this information, starts recording his sessions with the brothers, hoping to maintain control over them. But then Oziel and Smith break up, and things take a dangerous turn. and there is nothing like a scorned woman dealing with heartbreak. Smith goes straight to the police, revealing everything. She claims Ozil had threatened her life, saying he'd tell Eric and Lyle she had been outside the house on the day of the murders and that they'd kill her if she ever spoke up. With this bombshell confession, Lyle is arrested on the 8th of March 1990, right outside their Beverly Hills home. Eric turns himself in 3 days later, flying back from Israel to face the charges. And honestly, you guys, what is so crazy to me is the fact that Ozil and his mistress actually did this. Like, I wonder if Ozil actually told his mistress that he most likely would have, but I don't think he might have threatened her that she was outside of their house and she's gonna tell him to. I don't know, because it wouldn't make any sense, would it? Or did she just want to put him in trouble? Because I mean, they are sworn to secrecy of not telling anyone about what they discussed during their sessions, and then she just wanted him to be in trouble. I really don't know, because that was just a very weird like turn for me. Like, I just couldn't believe my ears. They're held separately without bail at the LA County Jail. A smart move, no chance for the brothers to cook up a story during interrogation. 4 months later, on July 20th, 1993, they began trial for the case. Although they were tried together, they had separate juries deciding their fate. 4 months after their arrest, the Menendez brothers' trial finally begins. Although Lyle and Eric are tried together, they have separate juries, and it doesn't take long for the case to explode into the national stage that it did. Court TV broadcasts the trial, and Lyle and Eric Menendez become instant household names. Everybody was talking about them. Representing Eric is defense attorney Leslie Abramson, while Jill Lansing stands up for Lyle. The brothers' defense: they killed their parents out of sheer fear for their lives after enduring years of physical and sexual abuse at the hands of their father, Jose Menendez. According to Eric, Jose wasn't just a perfectionist but a pedophile. Their mother, Kitty, wasn't much better, described as an enabler. Selfish, mentally unstable, and an alcoholic who chose to ignore the horror that was happening in her own home. In a chilling revelation, Eric claims that in the days leading up to the murders, he found his mother's suicide note. To them, this was a twisted act of mercy, ending her suffering before she could take her own life. But the defense doesn't stop there. Eric takes the stand and goes into graphic details about the abuse, revealing that his father was a monster who had abused him sexually, emotionally, and physically. He even confessed to Lau how Jose would stick pins in him during oral sex and threaten him with a knife if he ever spoke out. Lyle shares his own trauma during the trial, recounting the abuse he endured between the ages of 6 and 8. He describes Jose massaging him after sports practice and telling him to do the same to him, or worse, coming into his room 2 to 3 times a week to perform oral sex. Also, Lyle mentions the object sessions where different objects like toothbrush or shaving utensils with Vaseline would be used on him. Let's not get into that detail because that was just very, very horrific. The defense also drops another bombshell. Jose allegedly took photos of Lyle's genitalia during these sessions. When the prosecution argues that the brothers must have taken the photos themselves, the absurdity is hard to ignore. Who believes an 8-year-old will document his own abuse after sports practice when he just wants to cry and probably go to sleep? Lyle even told his mother about what Jose was doing, and you would never, ever, ever believe her response. Coming from a mom, wow. He was exaggerating. That was what she said. Exaggerating. At what point does this stop being an exaggeration? Kitty went as far as to claim it was punishment for their bad behavior when they would literally ever do anything wrong. So let that sink in. The defense still doesn't hold back, calling more than 50 witnesses, including family members and medical experts. Lyle's cousin, Diane Vander Molen, testifies that Lyle had confided in her about the abuse, but Kitty always chose to side with Jose. Another cousin, Andy Cano, shares that Eric told him about the abuse as well, disturbingly describing it as penis massages. He also described some of the visits he paid to the Menendez household during holiday and how he found two things odd. Jose and Lyle took showers together after playing tennis, but Tupperware with feces remnant under the bed. Psychologist Anne Burgess backs the brothers' claim, stating that their actions were reactions to the abuse, not acts of greed. If that wasn't shocking enough, the defense presents photographic evidence. Yes, actual photos of Lyle and Eric's genitalia supposedly taken by their father. Eric testifies that he only told Lyle about the abuse just weeks before the murders, and the news triggered confrontations within the family. Jose had threatened to kill them if they ever exposed him, so the brothers brought shotguns for protection, not premeditated murder. Then came August 20th, 1989, the night everything changed. Jose closed the den door, and in what Lyle and Eric describes as a moment of panic, they shot their parents, believing their lives were at stake. But the prosecution isn't buying it. They argue that this was all about money, the Menendez fortune to be exact, because at the time of the murder, Jose Menendez was worth $14 million. But when the grand jury looks at the evidence, there isn't enough to prove that financial gain was the motive. Laos prosecutor Pam Bozanik made an infamous statement during the trial, arguing that the men can't be raped because they lack the necessary equipment. Yeah, she actually said that. When it was time for the jury to deliberate, things are far from unanimous. Female jurors lean towards voluntary manslaughter, seeing the brothers as victims, while male jurors push for first degree murder. With the jury hopelessly deadlocked, the trial ends in a mistrial. This made the Los Angeles District Attorney Jill Garcetti swiftly announce that the Menendez brothers will be retried going forward. After the first trial, the Menendez brothers faced a second trial from 1995 to 1996, but this time it flew under the radar. Judge Stanley Westberg decided no cameras would be allowed in the courtrooms, making it a much quieter affair. The judge also limited the testimony regarding the brothers' claim of sexual abuse, only permitting manslaughter charges for their father, Jose, and not their mother, Kitty. After much deliberation, the jury ultimately found both brothers guilty of two counts of first degree murder with special circumstances for lying in wait and as well as conspiracy to murder. During the penalty phase, they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The jury chose not to impose the death penalty, considering that neither brothers had a prior criminal record or history of violence. However, the jury rejected the defense's claims that the brothers acted out of fear of abuse. On the 2nd of July 1996, the brothers were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, with their sentences to be served consecutively. Initially, the California Department of Corrections separated the brothers, sending them to different prisons. Eric went to Folsom State Prison and Pleasant Valley State Prison, while Lyle was placed at Mill Creek State Prison. However, in February 2018, everything changed. Lyle was transferred to the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, where Eric was also incarcerated. On the 4th of April 2018, the brothers were reunited for the first time in 22 years. When they met in the same housing unit, they burst into tears and embraced, overwhelmed by the emotional moment. This particular housing unit was dedicated to inmates participating in education and rehabilitation programs. Life didn't end in prison for the Menendez brothers. Lyle married Anna Erickson in 1996, but they divorced in 2001 due to infidelity. He later married Rebecca Sneed in 2003. Eric tied the knot with Tammy Ruth Sakoman in 1999, with their wedding cake being a Twinkie, which I think is kind of cute. Tammy described their relationship as special, and their daughter even called Eric her earth dad. Despite their circumstances, both brothers found love and built families behind bars. In 2018, inspired by their experiences, Lyle and Eric founded the Green Space Project, a prison reform initiative aimed at improving prison environments through murals and tree planting. Lyle also earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of California, Irvine in June 2024, which was this year that this video came out. I don't know what year you're going to be watching this video, through a special program for inmates. Now, 3 decades after their arrest, new evidence has emerged supporting the brothers' claims of abuse. Cliff Gardner, their appellate defense attorney, revealed a letter Eric wrote in December 1988, detailing his fears and the abuse that he suffered. Additionally, Roy Rosello, a former member of Menudo, alleged that Jose Menendez sexually abused him in the 80s. He was signed under the RCA records where Jose worked as an executive and was invited into the Menendez household where he described being given a drink that made him have no control over his body and he was raped by Jose. A habeas corpus petition is currently under review by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office. If retried, the brothers could face manslaughter charges, potentially leading to their release after having served 34 years in prison. Their story has gained a voice on social media platforms in recent years like TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit, with many advocating for their freedom. So, what do you guys actually think about the case? Do you think that Lyle and Eric should be released? I don't know if I'm just following the bandwagon of everybody on social media saying that they should be released. But it's very evident that the sexual abuse was in play, especially because of the picture evidence. Because if not for those picture evidences, honestly speaking, I don't think anybody or I would have believed that they actually went through that. I would have actually just thought that it was for financial gain. But the fact that there was evidence, and now an old artist that was in RCA Records has come out to say that when he was 8 years old or younger, in RCA Records, when Jose was working, he also like was sexually abused by Jose. It's a lot, and that should actually be taken into consideration, honestly speaking. And I feel like they actually should be released based on that count because Jose was honestly a monster. Like, how could you be doing that to little boys? Like, it's just absolutely crazy. And usually, men that do that are usually hiding it from their wives, not with their wives. Like, with their wives like knowledge. They usually hide stuff like that, like behind the scenes. But the fact that Kitty was enabling it and even telling the boys that that is your punishment is crazy. It's wild. I 100% could not even believe my ears when I was researching this case. Like, I was like, wow. So, anywho, that will be the end of this story today, and I will see you guys in my next video.